Aftermath Entertainment was started in 1996 by Dr. Dre after he left Death Row Records. He wanted a fresh start, something clean, new, and focused on talent without all the drama that followed him at Death Row. At first, Aftermath had a rough beginning. Dre released a compilation album called Dr. Dre Presents The Aftermath, but it didn't make a big impact. It wasn't until 1999 that everything changed. That year, Dre signed Eminem, a white rapper from Detroit with razor-sharp lyrics and a wild alter ego. Eminem's debut on Aftermath, the Slim Shady LP, blew up. It won a Grammy and went multi-platinum. This wasn't just a win for Eminem. It cemented Aftermath's place as a serious label. Dre produced most of the album, and the chemistry between them was instant. After Eminem's success, he launched his own label, Shady Records. The first major signing was 50 Cent, a rapper from Queens who had already built a street buzz with mixtapes. His debut album, Get Rich or Die Tryin', was released in 2003 through Shady, Aftermath, and Interscope. It sold nearly 1 million copies in its first week. 50 Cent then created his own imprint, G.O.O.D Records, under Shady Aftermath, bringing in Lloyd Banks, Young Buck, and Tony Yayo. Together, this trio of labels controlled the charts. Between 1999 and 2005, you couldn't go anywhere without hearing Dre's production, Eminem's lyrics, or 50 Cent's hooks. Other artists followed: Obi Trice, D12, Stat Quo, and later, Slaughterhouse and Westside Boogie. Even The Game's The Documentary was released under this umbrella before he parted ways. The partnership was more than just music. It was strategy. Each label worked like a branch of the same tree, pushing each artist to superstardom with Dre's beats, M's cosign, and Interscope's funding. This system became a blueprint for modern rap collectives. Even now, Aftermath still exists, with artists like Anderson .Paak. Eminem remains active, and 50 Cent has moved into TV and film. But their legacy as a trio of labels that dominated the 2000s is set in stone. Cash Money Records was founded in 1991 by two brothers from New Orleans, Brian "Birdman" Williams and Ronald "Slim" Williams. In the early days, the label was a local powerhouse, building momentum with regional acts like UNLV and BG. But things took off in the late 90s when Cash Money signed a $30 million distribution deal with Universal. That deal let them keep full ownership of their masters, an unheard-of move that showed Birdman's business instincts early on. Their breakout came with the Hot Boys, a group made up of Lil Wayne, Juvenile, BG, and Turk. Juvenile's 1998 album, 400 Degrees, exploded nationwide, and Lil Wayne, then just a teenager, quickly became the label's standout star. By the early 2000s, Manny Fresh's signature bounce beats and Wayne's growing charisma made Cash Money the face of New Orleans rap. In 2005, Lil Wayne started his own imprint under Cash Money, Young Money Entertainment. He used it to give himself more creative control and to launch a new wave of stars. The most important moment came in 2009 when he introduced the world to two new artists, Drake and Nicki Minaj. That trio, Wayne, Drake, and Nicki, would dominate the next decade of rap and pop. With Young Money at the front, Cash Money shifted from being a Southern label to becoming a global brand. The albums came non-stop. The Carter 3, Thank Me Later, Pink Friday, each one breaking records and shaping the sound of a new generation. But behind the scenes, problems grew. Lil Wayne sued Birdman in 2015 over unpaid royalties and delays with the Carter 5. Drake and Tyga had their own issues with management and contracts. Eventually, Wayne won a settlement and gained full control of Young Money. Despite legal drama, Cash Money's influence is impossible to ignore. From New Orleans street tapes to global chart dominance, they built an empire. And thanks to Young Money, Lil Wayne didn't just become one of the best rappers alive. He also became one of the most important talent scouts in music history. Ruff Ryders started as a family-run management company in New York. It was founded by siblings Joaquin Wah, Darren D, and Siobhan Dean. At first, they managed artists and producers behind the scenes, but that changed when they signed a gritty rapper from Yonkers named DMX. In 1998, DMX dropped his Dark and Hell is Hot under Def Jam with Ruff Ryders backing him. It was raw, emotional, and aggressive, and it sold like crazy. In the same year, he released a second album, Flesh of My Flesh, Blood of My Blood, which also went multi-platinum. Just like that, Ruff Ryders became a brand. The label officially launched Rough Ryders Entertainment soon after, becoming a joint venture with Interscope and Def Jam. They weren't just a rap label, they were a full movement. The Rough Ryders had their own biker culture, flashy music videos with ATVs, leather jackets, and intense energy. It felt like a crew, not just a label. Beyond DMX, they had other major acts. Eve became one of the first successful female rappers of the 2000s. She was raw, stylish, and held her own on tracks with the hardest rappers. The Lox, Jadakiss, Styles P, and Sheek Louch left Bad Boy Records and joined Ruff Ryders after a public fallout with Diddy. That move gave Ruff Ryders street credibility and lyrical firepower. They also had Drag On, Jin, the first Asian American rapper signed to a major label, and producers like Swizz Beatz, who would go on to become a superstar in his own right. Ruff Ryders dropped compilation albums like Ride or Die Volume 1, which went platinum, and Volume 2 and 3 followed up with solid success. But after the early 2000s, momentum slowed. DMX ran into legal trouble, the music landscape changed, and the label's dominance faded. Still, Ruff Ryders left a permanent mark. They helped make street rap mainstream again. They built a brand around loyalty, aggression, and family. And for a few golden years, they were the hardest label in the game. Bad Boy Records was founded in 1993 by Sean Puffy Combs after he was fired from Uptown Records. What started as a risky new venture quickly became a major force in 90s hip-hop and R&B. Puffy, later known as Diddy, had a sharp eye for talent and marketing, and he used both to turn Bad Boy into a hit machine. The label's first breakout artist was Craig Mack, but everything changed when they released Ready to Die, the debut album from the notorious B.I.G. Biggie's storytelling, flow, and presence made him a legend, and his partnership with Puffy set the tone for Bad Boy's entire image: stylish, flashy, and street savvy. From there, the roster expanded fast. Faith Evans, 112, and Total held down the R&B side. Mace brought a smooth, laid-back flow that balanced Biggie's grit. Even the Lox were part of the early lineup, before they later left for Ruff Ryders. Bad Boy wasn't just a label, it was a lifestyle. Glossy suits, shiny videos, and million-dollar budgets were all part of the brand. But tragedy hit in 1997 when Biggie was killed. Puffy responded by releasing the tribute, I'll Be Missing You, which became a global hit. Despite the loss, Bad Boy kept going strong into the late 90s and early 2000s, with albums from Mace, Shine, and Black Rob. Diddy also stayed in the spotlight with his own albums and high-profile collaborations. However, the label's momentum slowed as new movements like Roc-A-Fella, Aftermath, and Cash Money started rising. Internal issues and artist departures weakened Bad Boy's roster, but Diddy pivoted again, focusing on business ventures like Ciroc Vodka and making the band on MTV, which brought in a new wave of acts like Danity Kane and Day 26. Even without Biggie, Bad Boy remained iconic. It reshaped how rap was packaged and sold, proving that hip-hop could dominate both charts and culture. Whether you see him as a genius or a businessman first, Puffy's impact through Bad Boy is undeniable. It showed that image, ambition, and hustle could create a legacy. No Limit Records, founded by Percy Master P. Miller in the early 1990s, wasn't just a record label. It was a machine. At its height, it was one of the most productive labels in hip-hop history, dropping album after album at a breakneck pace. What made No Limit different was its blueprint: sign local Southern talent, produce in-house with beats by the pound, design flashy pen and pixel covers, and flood the market. The label's rise started in the Bay Area, where Master P first built a following by selling tapes from the trunk of his car. After moving back to New Orleans, he officially launched No Limit into the mainstream. Master P wasn't just an artist, he was a businessman. He negotiated a distribution deal with Priority Records that let No Limit keep most of the profits. That deal changed how independent labels approached the industry. No Limit's roster was huge. Master P, Silk the Shocker, C Murder, Mia X, Mystical, Fiend, Mac, and later, even Snoop Dogg, who signed after leaving Death Row. Each release featured bold branding, cross-promotion, and aggressive marketing. In 1998 alone, they released over 20 albums, with several going gold or platinum. Their music mixed gritty street tales with bounce-driven Southern beats, creating a sound that defined late 90s Louisiana rap. The label also expanded into movies, clothing, and even sports management. Master P's business moves were groundbreaking. He showed how hip-hop could extend far beyond music, but eventually, No Limit's formula wore thin. Oversaturation, legal troubles, and shifting tastes in hip-hop slowed things down. By the early 2000s, the label had lost its momentum, and many artists moved on. Master P rebranded as the new No Limit, and later, No Limit Forever. But the golden era had already passed. Still, No Limit's legacy remains. It helped bring Southern rap into the spotlight, broke the traditional label model, and proved that with the right hustle, an artist could become an empire. Dawg Entertainment, better known as TDE, is one of the most respected hip-hop labels of the 21st century. It was founded in 2004 by Anthony Top Dawg Tippett in Carson, California. What began as a small independent label grew into a powerhouse that helped shape modern rap. TDE's first major artist was J-Roc, a gritty street rapper from Watts. He laid the groundwork, but everything changed when the label signed a young Compton artist named Kendrick Lamar. Over time, Kendrick became the face of the label, and eventually, one of the most acclaimed rappers of all time. TDE's strength came from building a crew that felt like a family. Ab-Soul and Schoolboy Q joined early on, and with J-Roc and Kendrick, they formed the group Black Hippie. Each artist brought something different. Kendrick was thoughtful and poetic. Q was aggressive and wild. Ab-Soul was introspective and abstract, and J-Roc was grounded and raw. TDE grew slowly and intentionally. They didn't flood the market. They took their time with each release. That strategy paid off. Kendrick's Good Kid, Mad City 2012 put TDE on the map globally, and To Pimp a Butterfly 2015 cemented them as leaders in the genre. Meanwhile, Schoolboy Q's Oxymoron and Blankface brought mainstream success. J-Roc's Redemption and Ab-Soul's projects kept the label's reputation strong. As the label matured, it expanded its roster to include non-rap artists like SZA and Sir, pushing TDE beyond hip-hop and into R&B. SZA's Control became one of the most celebrated albums of the decade. Kendrick eventually left the label in 2022 to start his own venture, but TDE continues to thrive. They built a legacy by focusing on quality, creative control, and long-term artist development, values rarely seen in today's fast-moving industry. For over a decade, TDE proved that a small label with a strong vision could compete with the biggest names in music without sacrificing substance. Quality Control Music, also known as QC, is a modern-day hit factory that reshaped Atlanta rap in the 2010s. It was founded in 2013 by Kevin Coach K. Lee and Pierre P. Thomas, two veteran figures in the music business who believed Atlanta still had more stars to offer. Instead of chasing trends, they focused on discovering raw talent and building careers from the ground up. Their breakout act was Migos. The group exploded with Versace and later dominated charts with Bad and Bougie. QC handled their development carefully, turning them from mixtape rappers into global superstars. Around the same time, QC added artists like Lil Yachty and City Girls, expanding their sound into different corners of pop culture. What made QC stand out was their hands-on approach. Coach K and P didn't just sign artists, they helped them shape their image, social media presence, and overall brand. This approach turned QC into more than just a label. It became a full-scale management and marketing machine. QC also signed Lil Baby in 2017. In just a few years, he became one of rap's biggest stars, known for his sharp delivery and consistent hits. His albums My Turn and It's Only Me topped charts and showed QC could create solo success, not just group acts. The label's influence extended beyond music. Their artists dominated YouTube, TikTok, and streaming platforms. They understood how younger fans consumed content, and they leaned into it. In 2023, QC shocked the industry by selling the company to Hive America, run by Scooter Braun, for around $300 million. Despite the sale, Coach K and P stayed in charge and continued running operations. It was a sign that QC wasn't slowing down. They were just scaling up. Quality Control proved that with the right leadership, local talent can go global. They didn't follow a blueprint, they built their own. And in doing so, they helped shape the sound of an entire generation. Rockefeller Records started in 1995 when Jay-Z, Damon Dash, and Kareem Biggs Burke couldn't get a deal elsewhere. No one wanted to sign Jay-Z, so they created their own label instead. It was a risky move, but it changed the music industry forever. They released Jay-Z's debut Reasonable Doubt that same year, which eventually became a classic. The label kept growing, and by the early 2000s, Roc-A-Fella was a full-blown powerhouse. It wasn't just Jay anymore. Kanye West, Beanie Siegel, Cam'ron, Freeway, and others helped turn Roc-A-Fella into the sound of New York. Kanye went from being their in-house producer to a global superstar after the college dropout. Roc-A-Fella's influence was bigger than just music. Their style, attitude, and branding shaped the culture. From rock-aware clothing to their unforgettable music videos, they made hustler confidence a mainstream image. The Rock Diamond hand sign became one of the most iconic gestures in hip-hop. But behind the scenes, things got messy. Jay-Z and Dame Dash started having creative and business disagreements. In 2004, Jay became president of Def Jam, which absorbed Roc-A-Fella. He took the label's catalog and several artists with him. Dame and Biggs were pushed out. Roc-A-Fella, as people knew it, was basically done. Jay didn't stop there. In 2008, he launched Roc Nation, a much bigger idea. It wasn't just a label. Roc Nation was a full entertainment company, handling music, sports management, publishing, and even social justice initiatives. Through Roc Nation, Jay-Z signed artists like G.O.O.D, Rihanna, and Megan Thee Stallion. He built a roster that reached across genres and even into Latin and international music. Roc Nation also manages athletes like Kevin Durant and Saquon Barkley. Roc-A-Fella was the come-up. Roc Nation is the empire. Together, they show how Jay-Z went from an artist no one wanted to sign into one of the most powerful figures in entertainment. The Roc didn't fade, it evolved. Grand Hustle Entertainment was founded in 2003 by rapper T.I. and his longtime business partner, Jason Jeter. It started as a way for T.I. to take control of his music career after his debut album with Ryders Records didn't perform the way he wanted. Instead of waiting on major labels, he built his own house and soon turned it into a southern rap institution. T.I.'s second album, Trap Music, released under Grand Hustle and Atlantic Records, became a breakout success. It helped put trap music on the national radar long before it was a buzzword. The label was based in Atlanta and leaned into the city sound, gritty, melodic, street-driven, and gave that style a professional polish that could compete on a mainstream level. Grand Hustle wasn't just a vanity project. It became home to a growing roster of talent that spanned rap styles and regions. Acts like Young Dro, Big Q-Tree King, and 8-Ball and MJG added street credibility, while B.O.B. brought a more pop-friendly, genre-bending approach with hits like Airplanes and Nothing on You. The label also worked with artists like Trey the Truth, Chip from the UK, and even had early ties to Meek Mill before his Maybach Music Group days. In addition to rappers, Grand Hustle signed producers who shaped the sound of the 2000s Southern rap wave. DJ Toomp, Lil C, and Nard and B were all part of the extended creative team. They helped define the sonic identity of the label, giving its artists a consistent edge and bounce. Despite legal troubles that sometimes slowed T.I. down, the label kept moving. Even when it wasn't dominating the charts, Grand Hustle remained respected as a street-first, business-savvy label that carved out a lane between the major label system and independent hustle. It wasn't about selling out. It was about owning the blueprint. Over 2 decades in, Grand Hustle stands as proof that Southern rap didn't just rise, it built its own infrastructure. And T.I., with his eye for both sound and opportunity, helped lead the way. Death Row Records was one of the most powerful and controversial rap labels of the 1990s. It was founded in 1991 by Suge Knight and Dr. Dre, following Dre's departure from NWA and Ruthless Records. With its base in Los Angeles, Death Row helped turn West Coast gangsta rap into a global force, starting with The Chronic, Dr. Dre's solo debut. That album changed the sound of hip-hop. Its smooth G-Funk production, laid-back flow, and brutal honesty laid the foundation for everything that followed. Soon after, Death Row signed Snoop Dogg. His debut album, Doggy Style, became the first debut rap album to enter the Billboard 200 at #1. It went multi-platinum and solidified Death Row's position as the new epicenter of hip-hop. At the same time, Suge Knight was making business moves that gave the label power, but also drew criticism. He was known for using intimidation tactics and for fostering a chaotic work environment. It was effective, but dangerous. In 1995, Death Row signed Tupac Shakur while he was in prison, reportedly paying his bail in exchange for a 3-album deal. His first release with them, All Eyes on Me, became one of the biggest rap albums ever. But with fame came conflict. Suge, Pac, and the label became embroiled in a heated rivalry with East Coast artists, especially Bad Boy Records. The tension culminated in Tupac's murder in 1996. After Pac's death, everything unraveled. Dr. Dre had already left the label in 1996 over internal issues. Snoop soon followed. Suge Knight's legal problems, including a prison sentence, crippled the label. By the early 2000s, Death Row had filed for bankruptcy. Over the next decade, the label passed through several hands, but never recaptured its former influence, until 2022, when Snoop Dogg purchased the label's brand and catalog. Since then, he's been working to revive its legacy, putting out new music and reintroducing its classics to a new generation. Death Row was more than a label. It was a movement that dominated hip-hop's most explosive era, helped shape the West Coast sound, and forever changed the business of rap through both its success and its downfall. Collective Music Group, or CMG, was founded by Memphis rapper Yo-Gotti. It started as Cocaine Music Group in the late 2000s and later rebranded to CMG as the label grew more mainstream. What began as a personal imprint for Yo-Gotti's own releases quickly turned into one of the South's most respected rap labels, known for developing street-rooted talent and creating stars without major label shortcuts. The label's early focus was on the Memphis scene, helping Yo Gotti solidify his own position in Southern rap while bringing up artists like Black Youngsta and Moneybagg Yo. Gotti saw the potential in their raw styles and used his experience and resources to build them into household names. Both artists brought a mix of street credibility and chart appeal, pushing CMG into national conversations. As the label's momentum grew, Gotti started signing artists outside Tennessee. In 2021, CMG signed 42 Dugg from Detroit and SG from Louisville, two breakout names that added new regional energy to the label sound. Soon after, he added Glorilla, whose viral hit FNF Let's Go helped her earn a Grammy nomination and further cemented CMG as a hit-making machine. By 2022, CMG had a full roster of buzzing talent across different cities and styles. Yo Gotti secured a partnership deal with Interscope Records, allowing CMG artists to receive better distribution and promotion without giving up creative control. Despite being part of a major system, CMG still moves like an independent label, hands-on, street-level, and very focused on long-term artist development. What sets CMG apart is its consistency and smart leadership. Yo Gotti plays the long game, giving his artists time to build their fan bases and find their sound. The label doesn't rely on hype, it relies on results. Whether it's chart-topping albums, viral singles, or street anthems, CMG has positioned itself as the label that builds stars from the ground up. From local roots to national dominance, CMG is now one of the most important Southern rap labels of the 2020s, and it's still growing. 1017 Records is the label founded by Atlanta rap icon Gucci Mane. It has gone through several name changes over the years, starting as So Icy Entertainment, then 1017 Brick Squad, 1017 Eskimo, and now 1017 Global Music. But no matter the name, the label's goal has always been the same: to put on raw street talent from Atlanta and beyond. Gucci launched the original version of 1017 in the mid-2000s while rising to fame himself. One of his earliest signings was Waka Flame, whose aggressive style and breakout album Flockavelli helped define the sound of 2010's trap. Brick Squad also had artists like OJ the Juice Man and producer Lex Luger, who helped introduce a darker, bass-heavy style that would influence a generation of producers. However, the original Brick Squad era was messy. Internal beefs and management problems led to public fallouts, especially between Gucci and Waka. Gucci even tweeted he was dropping everyone from the label in 2013. Things slowed down for a while, especially during Gucci's prison stint from 2014 to 2016. But after getting out, Gucci Mane rebranded the label as 1017 Eskimo and eventually 1017 Global Music. This time, he took a more focused approach, partnering with Atlantic Records for distribution and building a more stable team. The new 1017 roster included buzzing young artists like Pooh Shiesty, Fujiano, Big Scar, and Enchanting. Many of them came from tough backgrounds and brought raw energy that made waves in the streaming era. Tragically, the new era has also been marked by setbacks. Incarcerations, label drama, and the deaths of Big Scar and others have slowed momentum. Still, Gucci continues to scout talent, drop compilation albums, and act as a mentor. He remains committed to giving young rappers a platform, especially those overlooked by major labels. In short, 1017 Records is a reflection of Gucci Mane himself. Unpredictable, influential, and deeply tied to Atlanta's trap scene. Despite its ups and downs, 1017 remains a vital piece of Southern rap's story. Maybach Music Group, or MMG, was founded by Rick Ross in 2009 after the success of his first few albums. The idea was simple. Ross wanted to create a label that reflected his own vision of luxury, street credibility, and musical range. With its sleek branding, signature tag, and confident tone, MMG quickly became one of the biggest rap crews of the 2010s. The label launched with Ross as the centerpiece, but really gained traction when he signed two rising stars, Wale and Meek Mill. Wale brought poetic flair and a strong fan base from the DMV, while Meek had raw energy and street authenticity from Philly. Their albums, Ambition and Dreams and Nightmares, both helped define MMG's peak era. MMG's sound was known for its cinematic beats, hard drums, and luxury themes. Producers like Justice League gave the label a polished, almost orchestral feel. Ross leaned into the image, rapping about art, wealth, and power, even as he kept one foot in the street narrative. His Teflon Dawn and God Forgives, I Don't albums were both huge for the label. MMG also signed artists like Omarion, Stali, Gunplay, Rocky Fresh, and even briefly French Montana. They all contributed to group mixtapes and compilation albums like Self-Made Volume 1 through 3, which helped push the brand as more than just a solo act. Omarion had a hit with Post to Be, while Gunplay and Stali had underground followings. Despite their success, MMG wasn't without problems. Internal tension, especially between Meek and Wale, played out online. Meek's beef with Drake in 2015 also affected his momentum, although he bounced back later. Over time, some artists moved on or slowed down, and Ross shifted his focus more toward business and solo projects. Even with fewer new signings in recent years, MMG still holds weight. Ross and Meek's 2023 joint album, Too Good to Be True, proved the brand still had something to say. At its height, MMG stood for consistency, style, and bold ambition. It didn't just create hits, it created a mood. Def Jam is one of the most important and longest-running labels in hip-hop history. It was founded in 1984 by Rick Rubin, a college student with a love for punk and rap, and Russell Simmons, a music manager with ties to New York's early hip-hop scene. Together, they built Def Jam from a dorm room startup into a global powerhouse. The label's first major act was LL Cool J. His debut album Radio in 1985 helped set the tone for Def Jam's early sound, raw, energetic, and unapologetically hip-hop. Around the same time, they also signed the Beastie Boys, a trio of white rappers whose debut album License to Ill became the first rap album to hit #1 on the Billboard charts. Then came Public Enemy, whose politically charged music made Def Jam a cultural force, not just a hit factory. In the 1990s and early 2000s, Def Jam grew even bigger. It partnered with and distributed several other major labels like Rockefeller Records, Murder Inc., and Rough Ryders. This era included landmark releases from DMX, Ja Rule, Jay-Z, Ludacris, and Method Man. The label balanced street records, club hits, and pop crossovers, helping to turn hip-hop into a dominant global genre. Def Jam also played a key role in R&B through its Def Soul imprint, with artists like Montel Jordan and Ashanti. And when Jay-Z became president of the label in the early 2000s, he helped launch the careers of Rihanna and Ne-Yo, expanding Def Jam's reach even further into pop and international markets. The 2010s were more turbulent. Kanye West, once the label's crown jewel, became more controversial. DMX passed away. Some newer artists left or faded from the spotlight. But Def Jam stayed afloat through legacy, strong A&R, and occasional standouts like Big Sean and Logic. Today, Def Jam may not be as dominant as it once was, but its legacy is unmatched. It laid the foundation for how rap labels operate and proved that hip-hop could thrive, not just on the streets, but also on the world stage. Good Music, which stands for Getting Out Our Dreams, was founded by Kanye West in 2004 at the peak of his early fame. After the massive success of The College Dropout, Kanye wanted to build a label that gave him full creative control and allowed him to shape the careers of other artists with similar vision and ambition. The label started strong with two major signings, John Legend and Common. Both artists dropped critically acclaimed albums under Good, with Legend's Get Lifted and Common's Be earning multiple Grammy nominations. These early successes proved the label could go beyond Kanye's spotlight, and create stars in their own right. In the 2010s, good music became more active and influential. Kanye signed Big Sean, Kid Cudi, and Pusha T, building a team of artists with completely different styles, but aligned under his creative leadership. Kid Cudi brought introspection and emotional vulnerability. Big Sean offered punchlines and radio appeal. Pusha T delivered razor-sharp bars and street credibility. The label released Cruel Summer in 2012, a compilation album featuring all its major artists and collaborators. The project included hits like Mercy and Click, showing that Good had both a loyal audience and serious commercial power. Behind the scenes, Kanye's production and creative control shaped much of the label's sound. But his leadership was also unpredictable. As his public behavior became more erratic, especially during his political rants and social media controversies, the label suffered. Artists grew frustrated with delays, lack of support, and direction. Tiana Taylor, for example, publicly voiced her disappointment with how her album was handled. Pusha T eventually stepped down as label president in 2022, citing disagreements with Kanye's views and actions. By the 2020s, Good Music had become mostly inactive. Its distribution deal with Def Jam ended. Several artists moved on or went independent. Today, while the label technically still exists, it's more of a legacy name than a functioning operation. Even if Good Music fizzled out, its impact is clear. It helped shape some of the most innovative rap and R&B of the 2000s and 2010s, and proved that Kanye wasn't just an artist, also a tastemaker who could build a full creative empire. So Def Recordings was founded in 1993 by Atlanta producer and music executive Jermaine Dupri. From the start, the label carved out a distinct space in hip-hop and R&B by blending Southern bounce with polished, radio-friendly sounds. Dupri wasn't just a behind-the-scenes figure. He was front and center as a producer, writer, and even an artist, shaping the sound of the South before it fully took over mainstream rap. The label's first major success came with Criss Cross, two teenage rappers known for their hit Jump and their backward clothes. Their debut album went multi-platinum, putting So Def on the map. Dupri followed that momentum by launching the careers of artists like Da Brat, who became the first solo female rapper to go platinum with her 1994 debut, Funkdafied. So Def wasn't just a rap label, it thrived in R&B too. Acts like Escape, Jagged Edge, and Bow Wow became household names under its banner. Bow Wow in particular became a major teen sensation in the early 2000s, thanks to Dupri's tight production and branding. Throughout the late 90s and early 2000s, So Def was a dominant force. Jermaine Dupri had a hand in writing and producing some of the biggest hits of the era, not just for So Def artists, but also for stars like Mariah Carey, Usher, and Janet Jackson. The label's smooth blend of hip-hop and R&B became a defining sound of the time. However, So Def's journey wasn't without its complications. The label bounced around between major distributors, Columbia, Arista, Virgin, Island Def Jam, and Epic, leading to uneven promotional support. Some artists, like Da Brat and Bow Wow, saw their careers slow down. Others, like Dem Franchise Boys, had brief success, but couldn't maintain it long-term. Still, So Def's legacy remained strong. It helped put Atlanta at the center of hip-hop, long before trap music dominated the city's sound. Dupri's influence on the genre, both as a producer and executive, can't be overstated. So Def was a launching pad for talent and a blueprint for Southern success in the music industry. Young Stoner Life, or YSL Records, was founded by Atlanta rapper Young Thug in 2016 as an imprint under 300 Entertainment. While Thug had already made a name for himself through his experimental flows and unpredictable style, YSL was his way of building a creative world around his vision and giving a platform to new talent. From the start, YSL focused on family. The roster wasn't just artists Thug liked musically. They were people from his circle, his neighborhood, or those he mentored directly. This led to a crew that included Gunna, Lil Keed, YTB Trench, and others. Together, they developed a signature style: woozy melodies, fashion-forward visuals, and music that balanced street credibility with chart appeal. YSL's first major win came with Gunna's rise, especially after the success of Drip Season 3 and Drip Harder with Lil Baby. By 2021, the label was on top of the game. Their compilation album Slime Language 2 debuted at #1 on the Billboard 200, It featured a mix of established stars and new artists, showing off the strength of Thug's ear and leadership. But in 2022, everything changed. Georgia authorities indicted Young Thug and over 20 others affiliated with YSL on RICO charges, alleging the label was a front for a criminal street gang. The case shocked the music world. Prosecutors accused the group of being involved in murder, drug trafficking, and more. Young Thug was arrested and has remained behind bars since, awaiting trial. Gunna took a plea deal and was released, but the decision stirred controversy among fans and other artists. Despite the legal chaos, YSL remains influential. Gunna returned in 2023 with A Gift and a Curse, a critically acclaimed album that stood on its own. And Thug, from jail, released Business is Business in 2023, reminding fans that his creativity hadn't died out. That's a wrap on the most iconic rap labels. Each one left its mark, shaped the game, and built legacies. See you in the next one. If you like this, hit subscribe and let us know which label we should do next. Let's keep the convo going.